Nightcap. Conversations on the arts and letters. With hosts, Studs Terkel and Calvin Trillin. Nightcap will be right back. Tonight's guests are Larry Elin, a pioneer in the field of computer animation, recently responsible for the acclaimed visual effects in Walt Disney's Tron. Ralph Bakshi, creator of American Pop and Hey Good Lookin', whose movie Fritz the Cat introduced adult themes to animation. Don Bluth, formerly chief Disney animator, whose most recent film, The Secret of NIMH, marks a return to a classical style of animation.
From the streets. Yeah. You know, when you hear the word animation, you usually associate it with Saturday morning little kids at home watching TV to keep them occupied. But animation is far more than that. It's a challenge today as far as the world is concerned, as far as art's concerned, particularly in this age of technological leaps.
This is the technological leap I've taken, Studs. This is how I've always understood animation. You want it, the next frame, you have the guy's hand a little higher, and I was astonished at reading about classical animation. This is basically classical animation with a little difference that Don Bluth, I read, you used 1.5 million little frames.
Approximately.
Approximately. I wouldn't hold you to that, Don. Maybe 1.5 million, 1.5 million,
I haven't counted, but we're working on it.
Something like that. What classical animation is, I can see classical animation means making it hard for yourself, right? I mean, you really have to. How would you describe classical animation? And maybe we can show a clip when you get.
Well, classical animation is a style of drawing, and the style is an attempt to hide the evidence that an artist did it. You want to put him in the wings, so to speak. Right. And if we can make the drawings look round, we can make them look three-dimensional, we can make them look uncrafted like they really exist, then an audience, I mean just a layman, can look at an animated film and get involved in the story.
And it's called classical because it comes from the classical age of animation. I mean, the early Disney age.
You mean of human hand, the human hand.
Yes.
Wait, let's put on. Let's put on.
What is this?
This is a clip that we're going to see
from
The Secret of NIMH, which was recently released by United Artists and Jim. And the clip is where there's a little mother mouse who is in trouble, and she leaves her home, and a little neighbor lady who's a shrew comes over to tell the children that the plow is going to enter the field, and she wants them to get out of the field.
Your auntie is exhausted. Why me? That I alone should be responsible for the welfare of the entire field is monstrous. Brisby!
Mother isn't here. Auntie Shrew, Timmy's sick.
Cynthia, dearest, don't bore me. She's not here. She left you children alone, then?
I'm old enough.
Rats in the field after heaven knows what kind of mischief. Cynthia, dear, don't fidget. You're so like your mother.
I ain't scared of nothing. She went to see Mr. Ages.
To Ages? That old flim-flam. Whatever for?
Auntie Shrew, Timmy's sick.
Patience, my pet. Why to Ages?
Timmy's sick. Timothy is very ill.
Timmy ill? How dreadful.
I'm not afraid of the dark.
What?
I'm not afraid of the farmer.
I can't hear.
I'm not even scared of dragon. I'm not even afraid of the great owl.
Will you hush up?
You hush up. Martin.
Precocious monster.
Bossy bullfrog.
Spoiled brat.
Loudmouth.
Oh, well. That will be quite enough, thank you.
You can see that what we're trying to do is really make you think those little characters have brains and that they're interrelating with each other. Because a layman does not get involved in an animation trip. The only thing he's got to hold him there for 90 minutes in a feature is story and character. So we don't want to tell you that we drew that.
So your attempt is to kind of erase the marks of the maker there.
That's right.
As if those things existed and grew up somewhere.
Yeah. That's the mark of good theater. If in theater, if you don't identify with those characters on the stage, you're bored out of your mind.
Right.
So the important part is get identification. And so if we, as animators, begin to say, hey, we're drawing drawings, and aren't we good, and aren't we cute, and everything, I think we missed the mark, which is identification.
Since it's your human hand at work, which you're concealing, we're talking about the age of, like, he and I just had to punch a button right now.
Right.
We forgot to punch the button because the age is so automated, but more than that, computerized. Now, come to Larry, Ellen. How does what you do in animation differ from what Don does?
In practically every respect.
Can we see a clip of... I'm going to remember this time. I'm going to push this on.
Yeah, but set the scene. What are we going to see?
We're going to see some clips from a feature film that was released this summer called Tron, which is, oddly enough, a release of Walt Disney Productions. And a lot of the footage was generated by a computer. Most of what's in this clip was actually created inside of a computer by people who, like myself, tell the computer what it is we want to make a picture of and what that thing does and where a camera is located and where lights are located, and what the computer spits back are pictures, which we put together and make a film.
Every game's Hank in the grid. Get them! I should never have written all those tank programs. Targets leaving protected field. Fire! Fire! Missed! Commence rapid fire! All units exiting game arena. All right, faster, get it. Go right, go right. We're coming in fast. Full stop.
We don't even try to do the kind of animation that Don does or that other animators do by hand. The technology just isn't there to make things come to life. The technology is there to make things move, which is not exactly the same as animation. We can't make those light cycles look like they're alive. We can make them move.
So your subject, in a way, the two of you, the subject matter of what you do, I don't mean the themes or anything, but say the location, whether the thing takes place in a forest or in another planet, is partly decided by the technique.
Sure.
Very much.
Yeah. I mean, you're not going to make a movie probably about people bouncing around in a computer thing.
No, and we deal with acting and with living things.
Yeah, but
and I noticed
Ralph
this.
Bakshi, he's really of another planet now. No, I mean, we're talking about his approach. I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Isn't that true? The fact that you two
He's a
have
friendly
a difference
alien.
in style, but you're talking about content. That's the big thing in your mind, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think content's everything in animation, but I think it's everything in film. The problem I faced in animation was the kind of boredom that set in with the kind of repetition that I found when I came into the business in the 50s, where we all basically looked back to Disney and then looked towards children for our major market, hoping these kids would bring along their parents. It's not that I didn't appreciate it or enjoyed drawing the characters or animating them. That in itself is a wonderful art form, but it left me with no way to express my feelings or express a way of life that was important to me, or also express a sort of what people labeled as adult animation. You know, how do you discuss animation for kids over 11? How do you discuss it? How do you try to make them get reinterested in what they loved once? And I think you'd have to talk to them directly about subject matters that animation never touched. Now, why animation never touched those subject matters is beyond me. In the clip you're going to see, which is called Hey Good Looking, is basically about what it meant to grow up in Brownsville, Brooklyn in the 50s. And what that means was its sexual attitudes, its attitudes about love, its attitudes about how do you get a job, you know, what is my father doing working, you know.
So life is real, life is earnest.
I'm going to try to do this.
Yeah.
Well, also, life is overlapping action.
Oh, come on. Now, come on, asshole. Do it. You're doing it wrong. Now, do it again.
Okay.
Now, come on, hit my face. Now, try it again.
Okay, okay.
Oh, come on. Throw from the shoulder, will you? Now, you're going to get killed throwing those roundhouses. Listen to me, will you?
Okay, I got it.
Now, try it again.
No. Now, you're trying to hit me now.
Yeah. Come on, now, try it again.
No, no fooling. Try it.
Come on, will you?
Come on,
I'll
chicken
kill
shit.
you.
Try it.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah? Funny. Very funny, asshole. Very funny. Hey, what are you guys doing? A little brawl, huh? What are you guys trying to do? That's my hair? Hey, kid. Hey, give me the ball.
Up yours.
Did you say what I thought you said? I'm gonna let it go this time because you're new around here. You don't know that this is Vinny you're talking to.
I wonder,
Tell me, I've got to know the answer. Someone from above. Nothing, huh? Just a schmuck. All right. That's enough.
Don Bluth and Larry Elin differ dramatically in their style and in the human hand as against the computer. In your case, you don't care what the style is, as long as something you say gets across.
Well, there's so many things to do, and certainly studs. I'm not, style is important only in as much as it helps progress the story you're trying to say. But if I had a choice, I would have to say what I'm trying to say, which is different in animation, and what can animation do differently is the most important thing to me. And when you think about the subject matters and stories that, that hasn't been told, it's kind of awesome. How you could compress time in animation to tell a story and how you can make your point is far more direct than, let's say, live action. In other words, while people are enjoying this particular scene, let's say heavy traffic, and might be laughing at it, I think once the scene is over, they've been so taken in by the animated characters, I think they can swallow the bitter pill of reality better that way. In other words, I am coding truth through the animation medium, and it gives me a greater breadth of discussion. I could do a film on Vietnam and really get into how things might have been as I saw it, which is very important. And the audience kind of would be able to accept that a little better than had it been a documentary on Vietnam. It has great strength, the same strength a political cartoon has. Certainly
That's interesting. In other words, a political cartoon sometimes can be have more punch to it than an editorial.
All the time.
Oftentimes.
All the time.
And so the animated political films, for the moment.
Socially political.
No, say it is about Vietnam. Far more than Hearts and Minds, say. It's not more than.
The important thing is that what I wanted to do was give myself a choice, and hopefully in that I gave animators a choice. In other words, I think that's what's important, that animation has a choice, and that is relegated to one thing.
Yeah, let me say that I really agree with Ralph on that animation is use of symbolic terms. And it's through symbolism a lot of times that you can see the truth rather than looking at the object itself. So symbolism works great with this art form. Like when we did the story of Nim, Mrs. Brisby is a mouse, but she's not really a mouse. There are no mice in the audience watching this film. There are women in the film.
That you know of.
That I know of, yeah. There are women watching the film, and all they're supposed to do is look at that little mouse and say, hey, that's a woman like me, and she has a family like me, and pretty soon they hook in and they identify with her. And when they identify with her, I can take that little symbol, which is a mouse, through a range of emotions, and you can even make the women in the audience cry. You can make them laugh. You can make them walk out of there deciding that they're going to make their life much better in the next few weeks. And all they've looked at is a mouse going through something. So it's a symbolic language. It's like a morality play, if you will. And if it's done correctly, there's more in it for the adults than there ever would be for the children. But I think the thing that's done the most harm in our industry is Saturday morning cartoons, because they have lowered the art form down to just simply a baby rattle. All it is something you plunk the kids in front of, and it jumps up and down and goes, ah, ah, ah.
That's the pacifier.
That's the pacifier.
It's talking heads as opposed to acting.
Now,
Well, excuse me, you mean both the quality of the content and the style?
Well,
I
the
mean,
form and the content are hard to separate.
Right.
You know, if you do have some content there, generally the form looks pretty darn good too.
Right.
But if you've got something that is so economically cut and the corners cut on it, you generally aren't trying to say anything either. And everybody that I know that works in the Saturday morning cartoons, what it's all about there is making money. And money's the bottom line. No one cares what they look like. In fact, everyone that works on them says, I give my eye teeth to get out of here.
Right.
where does this leave Larry? And Larry, of course, now he has now come together with a certain machine, technology.
If I can use Tron as an example.
Oh, yeah, what about Tron?
Okay. It doesn't try to do anything that Don was just describing. It doesn't try to make characters out of anybody. It doesn't try to tell a moral story, make a point. It just tries to be exciting. It just tries to be a visual treat. And the people who decided what Tron would be like decided what the market was. You know, who's going to come and see a movie about getting sucked into the computer and playing video games? You know, what age group, what kind of language will they listen to? What kind of action do they like? And that is why Tron turned out to be the way it did, and why it consisted of the kinds of characters that it had, and why the action progressed the way it did. It didn't try to be moralistic, I don't think, at all.
You know, I could have just really, really gotten very interested in Tron. The technique was beautiful, just beautiful.
What?
The story.
Huh?
The story of Tron wasn't something that ever pulled me into it. And I tried. I sat down there and I thought, now, I know those are kids. I've been in video, arcades. I know what these people maybe are going through because they tried to touch on what maybe modern day life is like. But never did I feel an urgency or that there was anything that was going to go on in there that I could give a damn about. Because there wasn't anything at stake.
So you and Ralph aren't far off on that. I mean, you think really that content, you may have different interests.
Yeah.
I mean, and the content may be different because you have different interests, but you think that you could show all the rounded bodies in the world you want and all the shadows under the leaves, and it wouldn't do any good if you didn't have a story.
The play's the thing.
I got a big question. You and Ralph really are not that, your way is different, but you both want to get something said. Larry is talking about keeping something exciting. Larry, are you younger than Don and Ralph? And if so, by how many years? Very curious.
I resent that.
No, you know why?
We're not going to get really exact, Ralph.
I got a theory I'm trying to
What's
put
your
forward. My theory is maybe there's a gap here. It's coming, in other words, in which a couple of people a few years younger have been so taken with the way things go, the games we're talking about, the Taras, the way things, the technique, and not worried less and less about what it means. That's what I was talking about. That's why I was asking the question.
I'm probably younger. I'm 31.
31? 45?
Okay, I'm younger.
43.
I'm right. You see?
I'm the oldest.
No, I'm right about this thing I'm talking about.
Okay, I don't want to say that you're wrong on your show.
Y'all want to arm wrestle or anything?
I don't want to mislead. I agree with everything Don said, and if I were running Tron, if I was redoing Tron now, I'd make a story out of it. We were discussing this before. You know, I was telling Don all the things that I would have done to make the hero someone that you could really love, and the bad guy somebody you could really hate, and get involved, get people drawn in, cheering for the hero. Myself, when I watched Tron, by the time Tron ended, I don't know if you know the story very well, but it's about a guy who gets trapped in a computer and he's forced to play video games, and to get out he has to go to something called the Master Control Program and destroy it internally while he's in the computer. The Master Control Program wasn't bad enough for my take. I didn't care who won, by the time the film ended. I didn't care if the hero won or if the MCP won.
And that's partly because that's a kind of a policy decision on high that has to do with market research or
I have to
something.
tell you, sometimes you don't know that these things are going to happen in a film until you see it yourself for the first time.
With the computer, ask this, is something lost? Something obviously is gained, a new excitement, a new form.
Yes.
But is something lost in nuance, in character that the concealed hand has?
Right now, I think yes.
Is lost?
Yes, but only because the technology hasn't caught up with the available talent. I think, for instance, like right now, Don would have a hard time with a computer, trying to do an animated film with a computer, because it can't do all of the acting that he wants his characters to be able to do. I don't think that a character generated by the computer would look very different than a three-dimensional Pac-Man. And, you know, whatever you can make a Pac-Man do is what you could probably make.
So you think it's a temporary loss? I mean, until the...
Well, there are a lot of people working on the problem. Every year they have a thing called SIGGRAPH, and it's a convention of people who work in computer graphics. And this past year in Boston, they drew about 32,000 people. So think about the number of programmers, and a lot of them are sort of hybrid programmer-animator type people, who are developing systems that will allow greater creative flexibility with a computer. We're not there yet. We have a few systems that, like ours, which you can use to make things appear to be three-dimensional, and you can move them around, and you can do some pretty interesting things, but character animation right now with a computer is sort of out of the question. You can do it, but it has a very Saturday morning kind of look to it.
You know what, I just thought of an interesting thing. We teach our young animators at the shop, and we tell them, first of all, never move anything around. That is, an animation isn't moving things around. And then when I saw this clip of Tron, I noticed that a lot of it is hardware that's being moved around,
Sure,
too.
that's what it is.
One of the things that we try and teach an animator who is really an actor, he's an actor first, and he just has to be able to draw incidentally. But we try and teach him to move the brain first. And once the character has a thought in his head, or an emotion that he's holding on to, then you know how to move his body around. But as long as you start by saying, my character is running around and he's going to jump over this chair and then he's going to run out of the room, and that's what you begin doing, you'll be lost. You have to say, why is he running around? Why is he jumping over the chair? And why is he running from the room? And who is chasing him? And how old is he? And how much does he weigh? And what's his mother like? And what's his father like? And does it... You have to answer all those questions.
He's a method animator.
Well, to go a step further, you know, in heavy traffic, you know, basically what I did was to break that kind of animation feeling and, you know, studio feeling, or I am an animator feeling. We recorded the tracks on location using real people.
Yeah.
But I also sent my key animators, right, to live in Brooklyn for 3 weeks. But what I thought...
How many of them came back?
All of them came back. Brooklyn was rather benign at that point. But basically, what's important...
Thank you for being with us this evening.
Part of the reason, both in textures of track, you know,